Good morning, people. This is Mick Ruby from MUFC Realist TV. I hope you're having a fabulous morning. It's Wednesday. It's actually game day. But, we done the overall review. We are playing at Sellers Park against Crystal Palace. And boy, do we need that 3 points. But another thing is, we also need new owners. And of course, there's been a lot of rumors and speculations going on in the past month. I've done my Glazers Out report, as most of you haven't seen it. The link is in the video description below. I'm using a new platform because I've had some technical issues. So I'm now using, for the first time, I'm using StreamYard. So hopefully you all can hear me. But, we're here to talk about Jim Ratcliffe's official statement that he has actually, expressed his interest and formally launched a bid for Manchester United, which is well documented if we go back in terms of Jim Ratcliffe's interest in speaking to the Rainey Group back in May, actually, when he actually had a conversation with BBC, right? So let us go over this article in the first place that, British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe's firm Ineos has officially stated an interest in buying Manchester United. Now, according to my humble opinion, that was already stated back in the late summer, when he was on an interview with the Financial Times or Forbes, when he said, he met with the Glazers, he spoke to Avram and Joe Glazers, they're a very nice family, but the club is not for sale. Now, the situation is different, of course. If we go back into the article, what it says that, first and foremost, Ratcliffe back then came with a late bid for the Chelsea, right? He offered about 4.25 billion back then, but obviously he came a little bit late, so he was rejected without any further explanation. So Ratcliffe and his company is kind of worth about 50 billion, in annual sales revenues, so the begs the question, will it be Ineos or will it be Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself, right? So let's have a look at, in terms of this BBC interview with Dan Roan back in May 2020, when he actually explained the correlation of his bid, and let's tie it into the timeline now.
If we want to make money, we make money in our chemicals, a bit of oil and gas, that sort of thing.
But you wouldn't look to make money
we're
Chelsea?
Not, no, we're not interested in making money out of Chelsea. So the investment in Chelsea is a long-term thing. It's just whether can we run that club really, really well and turn it into one of the finest clubs in Europe.
This part I find very interesting. I mean, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is saying, can we run this club as an investment properly? That gives you an indication that Sir Jim is a responsible owner. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
You missed 2 deadlines.
Yeah.
Set by the bank overseeing the sale. Can you still succeed in buying this football club? What have Rain, the bank involved, told you?
We presented them with an offer at the end of last week. We haven't heard a great deal back from them, which is a bit disappointing given that we are a wholly British bid, and we did place an offer in the week that offers were placed.
You were late, isn't it your fault?
No, we were late. That's our fault. I would agree with that. But
why were you late, out of interest?
It's a big responsibility. It's a big commitment. And it's a big commitment both in terms of time and in terms of money.
Yeah, absolutely right. So there's the timelines and the clues that he's already been in touch with the Rainey Group. As we know, back then, Rainey Group was responsible for the public sale of Chelsea Group, So the offers and the bids was offered to the public. Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in late with his bid, with little explanation. He didn't succeed, and he remained the contacts with the Rainey Group, according to my opinion. Now, Sir Jim got a sniff of it afterwards that United is for sale. The things has turned around, and according to my opinion, if you had look at the Glazers Out reports, there's been numerous speculations of Sir Jim Ratcliffe to buy American consortium and owners. We are here as a fan base to sort of share the information, to educate ourselves in what's going on into our club. Can Sir Jim Ratcliffe own Manchester United outright, considering that Ineos is owned by, they have about 50 billion in revenues, but what is actually the net worth of Sir Jim Ratcliffe? I believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a responsible owner, that we've seen that he's transformed his cycling racing team to be one of the best. He's very smart and witty. He's a Manchester United long haul boyhood fan. But is it enough to run Manchester United, considering that in a previous interview he said the biggest correlation in money in sport is money? City has it, PSG has it, and some degree Tottenham, who built a new stadium, has it. Manchester United don't simply play in that league. To buy Manchester United, you need more than 10 billion at least to invest in the infrastructure and clear the debt. You might buy the club for 5 billion, 6 billion, but then you have to clear the debt. You have to invest in the infrastructure, and that takes a lot of capital investments. So it is kind of clear and obvious that it's pointing towards Middle East investors. Some people say ICD, Investment Corporation of Dubai. I totally agree. I did that a report and conclusion that 70% leads to a Dubai consortium, but I'd be more than happy to see Surgim, running it together with Dubai itself. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm more than happy to share the opinions. But for me, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I've been very clear and adamant in terms of the sales process. We are now entering a phase where the award's going to be accepted by the highest bidder. Rainy Group is there, led by Joe Ravitch itself. So it's Rainy Group's duty to sort of make sure that the Glazers get the highest bid. And I'm led to believe that the winning bid will end up around £7 billion or £6 billion, which is almost equal to $8 billion US. But at the end of the day, who the winner is doesn't really matter, as long as it's not a Glazeronomics 2.0 ownership. We need an owner that can come in, make us great again, clear the debt, number one, to have a clear manifesto in terms of having the right sporting project and merits, back the team, making sure that we have the right investments in terms of the squad, back Erik ten Hag, appoint the right people above Erik ten Hag that sort of run the club on the sporting merits, at the same time have a commercial department that can focus on the business side. There's a lot of cash injection that needs to be done, but if you look at what the Glazers did 17 years ago when they actually bought the club on debt, they haven't invested one single penny. Everything that they've done in terms of transfer monies, it's been on credit and loan. So this operational model is no longer sustainable. They have to sell. Old Trafford back then, in 17 years ago, was a fortress, was a modern state-of-the-art stadium. 17, 18 years down the track, it's no longer. There's, roofs leaking rain. There's simply out of date. There's Carrington, the training ground, that still has the same facility. Maybe they've done a little bit of liquor paint of the old lady, Old Trafford. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of money that needs to be pumped in. For me, that is part of the manifesto, to clear the debt, to have a sporting vision, sporting merit, at the same time put some TLC in terms of communication back to the fan base, because for 17 years we were misled behind the scenes that created the big divide between the fan base, became very toxic because we wouldn't really know what was going on, right? So communication is key. Number 4 is to invest in the women's team equal in opportunity. But at the end of the day, should we rebuild, refurbish Old Trafford, or should we build a new stadium at the end of the day? That these are the questions that we need to answer. But of course, we've done a lot of videos on who would be the better owner. And for my opinion, according to my opinion, it doesn't really matter, as long as the new owner comes in with deep pockets and a lot of TLC. You know what I mean? So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. I felt obliged to say that, we need to have a discussion. We need to have it, So that's for me the most important thing, that we're getting back to the glory days. And with new owners with deep pockets, either Sir Jim Ratcliffe in consortium with Dubai, it don't really matter, because we are glory Manchester United, and Ten Hag is doing a madness at the moment. Nobody expected us to be in this position where we are now, but we got to keep the pressure on. And do I expect a sell? Yes, I do. My heart says January, but realistically, I've been quite adamant to have a little bit patience to say that if a realistic sell will be, it will be announced by the club, by a club statement. Any journalist out there, it's simply clueless because there's a lot of NDAs tied into it, non-disclosure agreements. So at the end of the day, what I do expect is a club statement, a club briefing to let us know that we've been sold. But remain the 70%, in my opinion, is an Dubai consortium with Sir Jim Ratcliffe possibility. But guys, let me know what you think. I don't know if this stream is working. This is Mick Ruby from MUFC Realist TV. Please like and subscribe, and see you later. Cheers, bye. Oi, oi, oi. Thank you for watching MUFC Realist TV and this episode. Listen, if you really like what you're seeing, please continue watching other content that we provide, because it's unique content providing by a fan for the fan, allowing you to be real red for real with real opinions, because at the end of the day, we are MUFC Realist TV. Even better, if you want to join our community, make us better, play for the team, hit that join button. Together, we will grow and make it better. Thank you for watching, and by the way, support the team for God's sake, because that's what we do here. Cheers!